Welcome to another episode of Friends, Food, and Relationships. Armando, how are you doing today?
Hey Lenny, how you doing?
Give me 1 second. I brought the audio down. Okay, let me do that again. How are you doing today?
Hello Lenny, how are you?
All right. So what I want to do today is tell my listeners how and why we work together.
Okay.
So where did I first meet you? Let's do it that way.
Oh, okay. Probably some amateur radio related activity.
Right. I know you, we're both members of the Red Cross, and that's how we continue to talk, right?
Right.
So are you continuing to do exams?
Yeah. A couple different things, the amateur radio and then with the Red Cross.
Right. No problem. Yes. That's how we met. And that's it. How long have we known each other?
I don't know. 20 something years, I suppose.
What was interesting was didn't I do an exam for you, impromptu exam one Saturday morning?
I don't remember. You mean you as the U.S. examiner, or
yes, me as an examiner? Yes.
Oh, interesting. I don't know, but I have a way to check though.
If I remember correctly, I think I did an exam for you where you were teaching a class where somebody called me and said, "Hey, there's no examiner." So Ryan and I went with Ryan in the morning. I think first time I did Day Radio Club for you.
Well, Ryan was not even in the picture when I got my license.
No, I understand. But what I mean is, he drove me over to the Dade Radio Club to do an exam for you and for a class that you were doing.
Oh, I mean, okay.
Yeah, he did.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
That was interesting. That was interesting that I had to, that he just happened to be going the way I needed to go. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
this is not too long ago, maybe.
No, that was not. I'll tell you something. Okay. I'll tell you something funny. You remember when you gave me a ride home the first time at night?
Not really. Probably from the OC.
Yeah, I got stranded there. I got stuck there I got left by the DCAT team, and you brought me home.
Oh, okay.
That was interesting.
I'm glad I was able to help.
Yeah, I was like, that's the first time I ever went home with you. I'm like, I got stuck. I was like, how am I going to get out of here, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because those people were full of politics, you know? So what did you do for a living? Let me ask that way.
Computer programming, I guess, in general.
The reason I call this series How I Met You and Why is because I do a lot of things that that most people, disabled people in the disabled community don't do, and I know a lot of people that most disabled people will not meet.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you are retired, what are you doing? What are you doing now?
I continue learning more about computers and stuff, and open to contract opportunities.
Right. No,
and I'm dedicating more time to the Red Cross.
Right. Yeah. That's a mission that I love too. You know, that's why I'm there too. You know, I love that mission. So how often do you go to the Red Cross?
Well, the go part is what's interesting. I mean, physically to the building, probably a couple times a month, unless there is a activity or something.
Let me word it a little differently. How often do you get on the computer to work for them?
Oh, every day.
Wow, that's something that I know you love, and I know you have now that you're not working much anymore. You have some time to do that.
Yeah. I guess that's good enough.
Yeah, no, it's so. How many years have you been doing the Red Cross stuff?
According to the records, since 1998.
I know this answer, but how did you get started with them? Just for my listeners.
I don't know. Let me see. 1998. So that'll be 28 years. I think it's a little bit more than that, to tell the truth. But
I think so too. I think so too. I remember once that we did an exam at the Red Cross. We're both bilingual, for those of you that don't know. So we both did an exam in Spanish. I think to Puerto Rico at the Red Cross, did we not?
yeah, that was actually more through the ARRL.
Yeah.
We were able to get exams in Spanish from Puerto Rico.
Right, but what I'm saying is we use the Red Cross building, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we did. We used the Red Cross building.
Yeah.
But that was an ARL thing. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how paths cross. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have never met you if it wasn't for amateur radio.
That's true.
And there's many mornings that I had a running joke with people. But you used to call me on Thursday. My question to you was, where am I going Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, because many times I helped you out of a bind. I remember. I think it was that first time I think it was that first class that we ever did. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoy working with you, and I enjoy how things are.
Oh, thank you, Lenny. Me too. I really appreciate your help.
It's too bad. It's too
not
bad that
people have the availability to help.
Yeah. The thing I like about you is that you help me help you, if you know what I'm saying about that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If you need to get me somewhere, you know what to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I say send me a car and we'll go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't have a problem with going somewhere. One thing that I do like about you and the Red Cross mission is that they're very accommodating.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that. I mean, into making that possible, and they're very aware of that. Over years, I've seen how they really care. It's a real priority.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's something that I love, and I love the fact that I got to know you through that. You know what I mean? I got to know you better through that. Because it's one thing to sit there doing an exam, but as a matter of fact, we've had a chance to have many conversations on the way or somewhere, having to go with the Red Cross, where we just have time to sit and talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the you're one of the few that you and Ryan are one of the few that I really call a good friend.
Yeah, same here.
Because I don't. For those of you that don't know, I tend to go with people that are able-bodied, because I go for interest. I don't know if you know that, Armando.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I go for interest. I love, talking to people of different things. As a matter of fact, how many times have I called you to say, "Hey, I need your help with the computer" or something like that?
Yeah. Quite a number of times. Yeah.
Yeah, I've called you and said, "Hey." Yeah, because it's one of those things where you learn things. There's things I've learned. There's things I've learned working with you that I didn't that I had to teach and to learn from you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love this kind of thing, because I'm not only teaching you, but you're teaching me.
Yeah. What this is all about.
Let me ask you this question. Did you know that I had a learning disability before I jumped into the exams?
No, not really. And I appreciate and admire your dedication to get all the exams and continue with that. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I can pretty well put it in the back burner. If I know what I'm doing, you don't even notice it.
Right.
Let me ask you this: how long have you been a shelter manager for the Red Cross?
Well, there are different titles, and I guess the position that I have, the official position, is supervisor.
Oops.
Given the hierarchy of titles they have.
So I don't know. So you know how long I've been doing this? You know how long I've been doing this, because I called it the old title.
No, they still have they still have a manager title,
Oh, I thought.
but
Okay.
it's different. You know, the manager position tends to have more administrative functions,
Right. So
and I'm really interested on helping people. So I don't think I'll pursue a manager position. You know, I have multiple titles, but
what is the difference?
uh,
What is the difference between a manager at the Red Cross and a manager at the Red Cross and a supervisor?
the responsibilities that you have. Uh, the further up you move, the less you are. And this is relative, you know, in touch with people. As a manager, you also have to have a few national deployments under your belt. So you know, there's other responsibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I
I mean, I've been an acting manager in many occasions. So like I say, is it the title or is it the function?
Right. For those of you guys that don't know, I am also a shelter associate for the Red Cross. So I'm wanting to Armando. I'm wanting to move up to a supervisor position. You think that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, you just apply yourself for that. You need to, you know, complete all the training and get some hands-on experience because it's not only the theory. You know, it's really important to have the hands-on experience.
Yeah, but there's one thing I say. I'm glad I didn't have to put my training to use this year. This past season.
Yeah, the next season is coming up soon.
Yeah, I do. I actually want to go into a shelter and see what the story is there. So,
And yeah, actually, we're gonna have an exercise in May, mid-May. I don't know exactly the date right now, but mid-May we're gonna have an exercise here in the area.
mhm. I'll
So
talk to
you may
you.
want to think about that.
I'll talk to you about that offline then, and I'll coordinate with you offline on that one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And we'll get together because I want to do. Like I said, I want to get some hands-on experience there, and I want to, you know, I want to put my skills to use. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let me ask you, what got you in the amateur radio?
Oh, this goes back to when I was in high school.
Right.
Yeah, I had a neighbor, you know, what we call in amateur radio, we kind of call Elmers, they're, you know, like mentors.
Right.
And this guy was not much older than myself. And
No?
he was a genius for electronics. I mean, he used to build turntables from scratch.
Yeah.
And his dad was a radio technician
Mm-hmm.
that supported the radios for the local police department. I grew up in a small area in the suburbs of Mexico City.
Right.
So of course, you know, this guy knew a lot about electronics. You know, that got me interested. And then I also had a neighbor that used to come to the United States very often.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to bring the Radio Shack catalog, and that was amazing. I mean, that was more exciting than a comic book. And I could see all these different components and things that they had, and I studied electronics engineering. Graduated as an electronics engineer. So amateur radio also play a role there because I remember when I took all of the communications courses in the engineering, I already had a license, you know, a technician type license in Mexico, and that helped me a lot to really, you know, understand all of that. And people were amazed. How do you know all these things? You know, because you learn to do that when you back in the day when amateur radio was a very hands-on activity. You used to build everything from scratch. My first radio was I built from scratch with the help of this other guy, down to even all the inductors, wiring the inductors and everything. And my first 2-meter radio, well, the one that I was referring to that I built was a high frequency, one for the international frequency. But my first submeter radio was a re, you know, a modified patrol car radio. And back then, the radio used to be in the trunk. It was a big. Those radios were really big. They were the size of a luggage, you know. Just so they have
Wow.
that in the trunk. Then they had a remote for the microphone and change channels, turn it on, and so on. So that's what I have under my bed, and the radio, and you know the control panel. I had that on top of a bookshelf. I made antenna from scratch. So yeah, it was interesting. Actually, yeah, this was in high school. No, even no, high school. Yeah, high school. But you know, first year.
What was the difference between our licenses here and the license in Mexico?
Oh wow. Well, you know, this goes way back, so I don't know exactly what how they things are today, but essentially they have the different levels of licensing. Um, Back then, I mean, even when my first license that I got here, you still had to know Morse code. So,
Yeah, I know that because when I went to take my license in '97 and I couldn't get the code, and no, I'm sorry, not '97, '87, and I couldn't get the code. That's why I didn't do it.
right.
So, and now here I am as an extra class examiner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how the world turns. And I'm gonna say this: the only reason I started that is because Coral Gables Races, which was a volunteer organization, wanted to bring exams in. That's why I started the whole thing.
Yeah.
If not, I wouldn't be sitting there doing exams now on a computer.
Right.
Just a quick question to that: how do you like doing the exams on exam tools in Zoom? How do you like doing that?
Well, you know, times change. I mean, I'm glad we have the option, but yeah, you know, sometimes I wish that you know we had I could go to the on-site exams to congratulate the new hams.
No, yeah, I'm old school myself. I would prefer to go to the field because there's one thing I'm gonna say. I have a thing where when you're in a computer, you're seeing only one angle. You see what I mean? When you're on site, you can roam around like I do.
Right.
So that's why I just see. But it's also been a blessing because of my disability. I can't drive, so it's hard to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how did you feel the first time I decided to come work for you, be an examiner for you? Did you have any hesitation on that?
No. No, there was no reason for that.
I was like, no, I just asked because listeners sometimes will say, oh, a disabled person, you know. I see that a lot of times.
Do you?
Yeah, I see that when people want to hesitate because they say, does he know what he's doing? You know what I mean? That's why I'm glad Ryan has my back if there's a situation there. You know what I mean? So how long have you been doing the exam thing?
I guess close to the 30 years.
Wow, close to 30 years. So you must have over 100 exams under your belt, right?
Yeah. I don't check. I mean, I used to check, but you know, I don't check it.
No, I checked a month ago, and I'm over 100, but I'm not gonna check anymore. You know what I mean? Because right now it's what it is. You know, it's what it is. You know, it's I love it, and you know what? I don't know. How do you like giving exams to kids? Do you feel any different than an adult?
Any different than what?
In an adult exam, do you feel any different? Do you feel any more pressure or anything of that nature?
No.
There was
How about you?
There was only one time. I felt a lot of pressure.
Okay. And what was that?
there was like a family went to Homestead to take an exam, and one of the
Oh.
kids took the exam on his birthday. You see,
Okay.
there I felt the pressure. You know what I mean? Because we wanted to make sure that we were all correct and say we got it. You know what I mean? We got you right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's life. You have to learn, and
Yeah, but now I sit down and I come to the computer and I do my exam and it's like another day at the office. You know what I mean? Do you prefer to be the liaison, or do you just prefer to be an examiner? It's just for me.
it doesn't matter. I mean, I was the liaison for a while.
Yeah,
When we used to do the paper with David and
yeah,
the other guys.
yeah. No, that's how I learned on paper.
Yeah.
That's how I learned on paper, and I was like, oh my god. Were the first exam you did? Were you able to watch, or did you decide to, or did you have to work that exam?
But I started working as soon as I got the credential.
You know that I did too. You know that I did too. Unintentionally, I did too.
Okay.
I got the credential. I went to sit in an exam, and one of the guys that I won't name here said, "I'm going home." I'm like, oops. All right, here we go. You know what I mean? That's me. You
Yeah.
know, that's how I do things, and I'm not nervous anymore. I'm not nervous at all now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Either I go into a session or I sit at the computer. I'm like, whatever, another day at the office. You know what I mean? So let me ask you this question: how does the family feel about you doing all the volunteer work that you do?
And they're very supportive.
Yeah. With me, they are supportive, but sometimes, just so you know what happened. Sometimes I have to adjust meal times when I'm on the podcast Zoom call or something for somebody, workshops or whatever, and my mom is happy to adjust my meals for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a give and take. You know what I mean? I don't abuse it, but you know what I mean? We all do what we have to do. So let me ask you this question. How does your volunteer work relate to your job? The job, your consulting jobs and things of that nature?
What do you mean?
Does anything cross over from your volunteer work to your job, like knowledge?
No, I mean they're different. I mean sometimes as a contractor, sometimes it's easier to dedicate some more time to the to volunteer, and sometimes it's not, depending on the type of project and things like that.
No, it's interesting. I never thought that I'd be doing amateur radio, and I never thought I'd be doing Red Cross work. I started an amateur radio in Red Cross, but let me leave that there. You know what I mean? I prefer what I'm doing now. I prefer doing now more hands-on stuff, you know?
Right.
So how do you let me ask you this question. How do you feel as a shelter supervisor if a disabled volunteer would come and you would need to accommodate them to do their job? How do you feel about that?
Oh, that is arranged way before anybody shows up to the shelter.
Right. No. Just as a matter of fact, I know that, but I'm asking you that for my listeners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's questions.
No, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of planning related to that. For example, in choosing a location for the shelter.
And there's
you got to make sure that you have all those different things, and there are different kinds of functional and access needs that they plan for.
Right. Like for example, I can easily sit at a shelter desk and just watch the dorm room, if you know what I mean. I'm very capable of doing that, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's one of those things where That's one of those things where when we went to the shelter simulation, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, but there's always some way to do something. You know what I mean? And now with now with technology, I think it's gonna get easier. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Sometimes too much technology is not a good thing.
No, but what I mean is, there might be an opportunity for me to virtually deploy, for example.
Oh yeah, no, that's for sure.
That's where I'm going with that. That's why I say makes it easier. You know, that's what I say that makes it easier. Because there's times I won't deploy because it's far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have my limitations there. So have you ever worked with a disabled person in a Red Cross capacity? In an emergency situation? Let me ask that question.
Disabled.
Listeners,
I
that's
mean,
a
other
thing I don't
than
know about.
like, clients or actual Red Cross workers.
Yeah. No, you have not? Because there's not many of us. There's not many disabled people. Let me tell you something interesting. One time I was going into a meeting. I was in the morning. I was going into a meeting on STS, which is a Special Transportation Service. And you know what the driver asked me? If the Red Cross had a day program.
They had a what?
A day program. You know what a day program is?
No.
It's a program where the disabled go to socialize for the day so the parents can go to work. So the caregivers can take a break.
Okay.
Because he said, I asked him why. He goes, because there's a lot of people that go there. Like, I said, no, those are volunteers. You know what I mean? Isn't that an interesting thought from somebody that doesn't know?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I guess the answer is yes. I mean, depending on how you define it. Again, they take into consideration all kinds of conditions. Right.
And there's many things that
it's not necessarily just on disability. It could be related to religion. It could be related to other conditions, other functional needs.
Right. No, yeah. It's I even have a situation where I was in the Red Cross, and because I made a mistake, I got told to go take sensitivity classes.
Yeah. Well, you have to take those anytime, all the time, anyway.
Yeah. I'm like, I made a mistake here, But those things happen, I'm not worried about it. It just happened. I did it. I dealt with it, and I'm done. So let's see where I'm gonna go with this one. Okay. So you told me how you guys started. I got so what do you think about being more the Red Cross now being more inclusive for the disabled community?
They always strive to do that.
Yeah. But I can see it as a disabled team member. I can see that they're getting better at it.
Well, you're always learning. There's always
a
better way to do things.
Right. No. And there's things that they don't know about that we as a disabled people have to tell them.
They do find out. I mean, they do look for those things.
Yeah. But some things are not
ahead of time, in not only internally but with other organizations.
Right. Like what was the situation? There was a door that I got stuck behind one day, and I had to tell them about it. They had to fix the spring on it.
Yeah.
Because it was not the correct spring. You see what I mean? Little things like that they don't notice. You know what I mean? Because they can push through that door. So yeah, I think I'm taking this in circles. I'm gonna end this episode right here and say thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on with me.
Sure, Lenny, my pleasure.